So, wonder if I just said, Jay, you're full of it. When you hear that, you're really full of it. The connotation is not generally one of being positive and encouraging somebody. Yes? It's sort of like when my 16-year-old daughter wanted to put a bumper sticker on her car and it said, blank happens. You know that bumper sticker? And I thought, well, no, I don't know. You know, I was the pastor, and I thought, she's driving around with that word, and it's not stuff. And I'm sorry for putting that into your head right now. But it was a matter of time before I saw the other bumper sticker that said, grace happens. And I thought, yeah, if I could, well, I guess I can. I should put both of those on my car, because that's life. Stuff happens, and grace happens. And the fact of the matter is, Mary, Jesus' mother, was full of it. And Jesus himself was so full of it. Full of grace. Growing up Roman Catholic, my brother and I used to have contests at night as we're going to sleep. Our rooms were separated by a hallway, and we would see who could say the most Hail Marys and Our Fathers before we went to sleep. And the Hail Mary is, Hail Mary, full of grace. Well, so what is it that we're talking about? What's the grace? A book was written by a man who told the story about his adopted daughter. She had been adopted by another family, and for one reason or another, it didn't work out. And they unadopted her. And when this family adopted her, the dad told the story, or was told the story by the young girl, that she had never been to Disney World. And he thought, gee, I thought every child in Florida went to Disney World at one point or another. And she said, well, my family would always go, but they would just take their biological children. And they found a sitter for me. So I never got to go to Disney. Well, this dad's heart was sort of broken, and he said, we're going to go to Disney. We're going to take the family to Disney. So when he told her that, for some reason, things went south. She went through a phase of lying at home, of cheating, of being really mean to the other siblings, saying certain things. And he wasn't quite sure why. He sat her down on his lap one day and said, just a couple of days, we're going to Florida. And she said, oh, I know what you're going to do. You're not going to take me to Disney World, are you? And he looked at her and said, no. Is this trip something we're doing as a family? She said, yes. Are you part of this family? And he said, yes. And I say he, it could be the mom too. She may have been part of the conversation, but this is the dad in his book relating the story. And Dad said, then you're going with us. Well, even a couple days beforehand, her behavior was still negative. And in the car on the way. But after a long day, standing in long lines in the hot sun, hot, humid sun, in the hotel room that evening, a very different child emerged. She was exhausted, she was pensive, and she was a little teary-eyed. As she looked up to Dad, and he said, And again, I say, Dad, Mom was probably there too. I said, how was your first trip to Disney? She said, I finally got to go to Disney. But it wasn't because I was good. It's because I'm yours. It wasn't because I'm good. It's because I'm yours. That is outrageous, extravagant grace. One of the principles in mindfulness, which may be very, very difficult for us, which is why we don't even want to talk about it, is non-striving. That's a concept that is a little bit difficult for us because in this day and age, we strive, we press, we push ourselves to be excellent, to meet high goals, standards. For mothers, this ideal perfection of what a mother's supposed to be. It's like we all laughed when Lexa said, well, she's patient sometimes. Well, and I smile because, well, yeah, welcome to the human race. You show me someone here who's patient all the time. There's nothing wrong with being driven and being your best. But the problem is in our mind, we carry that and we think that that's how it is with God. That's how it's supposed to be that in everything that we do. I watched another great TED Talk this week by Carrie Bettenfield. In her 20s, started her own company, extremely successful. Google wanted her, chased her. The company was prosperous. She was making a great salary. She worked long, long hours. But something happened in her life when she realized that there's more to it. And maybe it was after she went through a divorce and lost her husband because she was just pushing to make more money, to be more successful. And you know, with people who are really, really driven, they probably are people who carry a lot of stress in their life. And what does stress do to you? Well, look at the number of diseases that we have that they say are a result of stress. To be non-striving means I can take a deep breath and realize it's okay. That there's a concept called grace. And it says, by the grace of God, I am who I am. You got to love me for who I am. Sometimes the sermons really stink. But we already talked about forgiveness. And we'll talk about sense of humor. It's like, for the longest time, it was so difficult for me on Sunday morning because, and I told you this is the first time I came here, the first sermon that I preached. I value the fact that you have chosen to be here this morning. And I feel an enormous responsibility that I better give you something that you can take away. Just one thought to think about. But it doesn't always work that way. And I put so much pressure on myself. I got myself so worked up, like getting so anxious and stressed out about the sermon. And Saturday night I couldn't sleep because I couldn't turn my brain off. And Saturday was a wreck too because all day long, and I mentioned I'm playing tennis and I'm thinking about the sermon. And I didn't get enough of this and enough of that in the sermon. And all these people who are so incredibly bright, I want to stimulate that bright intellectual brain, and people who come from the heart, I want to move their heart. And it's like, oh my goodness, who do I think I am? There are just a few excellent preachers in this world. My hope is that I could just be good on Sunday. I can just be good. That would be good enough for me. But again, it's just that striving, and it's like, breathe, David. It's not about you. For by grace you are saved, and that not of yourselves, it's a gift of God, not of works that anyone should boast. Grace is unmerited favor. Grace is something that is given to us, that is free. When was the last time you worked for a gift? When was the last time you paid for a gift that you received? You don't do that. You just receive it. This little girl didn't understand that. She was mean, she was nasty, she made mistakes, but she got to go to Disney World because that's just how it is with a mom and a dad. You're part of the family. I don't have to strive with God. Do you know that if you didn't show up today for church, and do you know that if you were home in bed right now reading your favorite novel that you're engrossed in, or if you're out in the garden, or you're taking a walk, a hike in the woods, or riding a bike, do you know that God would love you the same as if you're sitting here right now? God's not one who's saying, okay, you got to check these boxes today. You want my grace? You want that extravagant love and compassion and kindness? You don't have to do anything. You just have to sit here, sit down, and smile. Because it's yours. But I'm not used to that. Because everything about what I do to be a better mom, a better dad, a better employee, a better friend, it's all about me doing the right thing, about saying the right thing. It's exhausting sometimes. God's saying, take a breath. Take a deep, deep breath. Look at the psalm again. Every phrase that was read to you by Kate, it exudes the grace of God. The shepherd was full of it, full of that grace. Sheep aren't very smart, you know that. But the shepherd was full of grace. Sheep were hassled all the time by flies and were prone to diseases. But the shepherd was full of grace, and he anointed them with oil, and that helped keep the flies away and soothe some of those diseases and infection. The story is told in the New Testament of the shepherd who had 100 sheep, and one of them was lost. The shepherd's full of grace, so he went looking for that dumb sheep that wandered away from the 99 and came back. The Bible, from Old Testament to New Testament, is full of stories about human beings who make mistakes and bad choices, but God continues to pursue them with grace. And God doesn't turn a back to those people who make those mistakes. Oh yeah, Mary was full of it. And thank God Jesus is full of it. And thank God that the story that we read and that most of you have memorized, the 23rd Psalm, is just so full of the reminder that you don't have to do. Remember what you are. You're not a human doing. You're a human being. So just be. Be in this moment. Allow yourself the smile, the deep sigh of relief to know, man, this is great. I have a God who loves me. Yeah, I feel this, I feel that, I get messed up here and that. My brain's cluttered with this. I think I have to do this, but you don't. Just revel in the fact that, Jay, you're full of grace, not the other stuff. So my hope for you this morning, my wish for you this morning, for moms especially, I hope you are just so full of it, and that you enjoy every moment of the grace of God that is yours. Amen.